Correct.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Sadashivasamārambhām Shankarācārya Madhyamām Asmadācārya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavahitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om
Om
Shanti Shanti
Shanti
Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Tat Sat.
Om Tat Sat. Om Namah Shivaya.
Okay, so we had completed the 22nd verse, right? Now we are on the 23rd verse. We'll chant that out. Verse number 23. Dehoham ityayam mudaha
Dehoham
Jayam
dhrutva tishtatyaho janaha mamayam ityapijñātva
Mamayam ityapijñātva
gadadrishteva sarvada.
Ghatadrishteva sarvada.
Okay, so the idea conveyed is that all of us have an assumption which has been, formed out of years of living, out of seeing people around us die, out of knowing, out of reading, out of talking. What is the assumption? That I am a mortal being. And the tragedy is that none of us ever question this fact. Am I really mortal or not? Because it's only when you question that you discover whether your thinking is correct or not. That is how we discovered that everything doesn't go around the earth, but that the center of our solar system is the sun. Questions were asked. And it's a very important concept which we should understand, that the will of the majority, the views of the majority does not decide what is right or wrong, right? What is right, what is wrong is wrong. Truth is not a democratic view. And therefore here, Shankara says, aho. So you have to look at the word tishthatyaho in the first line. So that word is broken down as tishtati aho. So aho is an expression of astonishment. So Shankara says, oh boy, I'm astonished. Why? Mudaha janaha, people who are deluded, what do they do? Dehoham, deha aham deha, in the view that I am the body, iti drishtva tishtati. Iti dhritva tishtati. Dhritva means firmly, with dhriti. So these people, tishtati, they remain firmly embedded in the thought that I am the body. And when suddenly you find some Vedantic teacher coming along and saying that, oh, no, you are not the body, you don't grow old, you don't die, nobody wants to listen. But out of maybe 1,000 people who hear him, one or two may say, okay, fine, maybe there is something in this view. And that is how Shraddha comes around. And once Shraddha comes around, then you have the possibility of vichara, enquiry. And what is the enquiry about? When you think about Vedanta, we have the first thing that you think about is that I experience my body as an object. Why? During Jagrata Avastha, I use the body, I know the body is there. But during Sushupti Avastha, I don't experience the body. In Swapna Avastha also, I experience the body, but I, the sleeper, experience the body. And therefore, the body is available in Jagrata Avastha, the body is available in Swapna Avastha, but the body vanishes as an object of experience in Sushupti Avastha. When I say available, I mean available to experience, and therefore available as an object of experience, as a Vishaya. Right? So body is available as a Vishaya during Jagrata Avastha. Body is available as a Vishaya during Swapna Avastha. But the body is not available during Sushupti Avastha. And therefore, since that body is not there all the time, then the body has to be something that I am experiencing, because it comes and goes, right? So whatever comes and goes is an experience. And therefore, this body comes and goes. That body is an experience. And therefore, I am an experiencer. And that is what Shankara means is Ghatadashteva. Like the experience of the Ghata. The Drishtaha here means literally perceiver. You can look at one who sees the pot is not the pot. Ghatadashteva, that single one word has to be understood as just like the one who sees the pot is not the pot. Just like the one who experiences the pot is not the pot. And therefore, the experiencer of this world is not the world. The experience of the body is not the body. I can understand that I am not the cow, right? I am experiencing a cow. I'm seeing the cow, and there are I won't say there are no people. There may be somebody, but generally people won't say that I am the cow which I am seeing. Then what is the difference when the object that you experience is also an instrument of your perception? Then it becomes very intimate to you, right? For example, um, like I have had a cataract operation, okay? So I've got implanted lens in my eyes. Now, that lens is actually the instrument through which I see. But the lens is so intimate with me. In fact, I don't see the lens at all because it is implanted. And therefore, I forget that the lens is an object of my perception also. Why? Because it is the instrument of my perception. Therefore, when some object becomes the medium of experiencing, then it is very easy to lose sight of the fact that it is an object. And that is the reason, that is the first reason, logical reason, why most people find it difficult to differentiate themselves from the body. Why most people consider the body as themselves. This is the first reason, because the body is the instrument of all your perceptions, of all your experiences. And so there is something else also. So he says here, Mama, I am iti api gyatva, because I also consider something as mine, right? Mama, I am Mama, this is mine. So there is the first thing, taking the body as yourself. There's a second thing, taking something as yours. So when you take something as yours, there is a sambandha being brought into being. There is a connection, relationship being brought into being. If I say, this person is my daughter, then there is a relationship. And the moment there is a relationship, the relation, in this case, the daughter, is different from me, right? Unless a person is different from me, I cannot have a relationship with that person. Or for that matter, this is my car. There is a sambandha, owner owned. And therefore, all relationships require duality. This is one more thing we should always remember. Whenever you talk about Sambandha, there is always Vaitam, there is always duality, and the relationship is always indicated by the word mama, mine, right? While when I refer to myself, I am referring as aham, me. But when I refer to something which is mine, always say mama, my wife, my mother, my daughter, my child, my car, my money, everything. And therefore, I am different from my wife, I'm different from my mother, I'm different from my money, I'm different from my car. And sometimes, if you have a dog, you say my dog, right? So you are different from your dog, Of course, some people will bark like dogs, but that's a different matter. But the fact is that they are different from the dog. And therefore, every object which is involved in a relationship is a mamakara, is an object of mamakara. And wherever there is a related thing, remember the vision, the vision of mamakara, mine, is different from the vision of me. So mama, the vision of mama, or the object of mama, the vishaya of mama, is always different from the vishaya of aham. Does it make sense? The object involved in a relationship is always different from the object involved in I. So we refer to the body as my body. We refer to my mind as my mind. The moment, moment you say that, your body and your mind becomes the object of a sambandha, relationship, the vishaya of a sambandha. You are the subject saying, this is mine. The body is the object, which is yours, right? Okay, so we have talked about two things. I'm just summarizing so that we don't forget. The first idea was that you experience the body, right? So body is an object of experience. The second idea was what? The body is the object of a sambandha, of a relationship. So two things are there. Body is the object of my experience. Body is the object of my relationship. When I say my body, right? So these are the two strong reasons to prove that I am different from my body, that I am the possessor of my body. And yet, Shankara says, oh, yet, unfortunately, people refer to themselves, their own body as aham, to their mind as aham. Oh, what a great shame it is. If an animal refers to it, it is understandable. But after knowing all this, you still refer to it. What more can be said? So Shankara is wonderstruck and he says, oh, people still do it in spite of all this logic. Okay, now we go to the next verse, verse number 24. We will chant. Please unmute yourself. Brahmaivaham samam sabrahmaivaham samashantah.
ब्रह्मैवाहं
समशान्तः
समशान्तः
Satchidananda Lakshanaha.
सच्चिदानन्दलक्षणः
Naham deho hi sadrupaha.
नाहं देहो सद्रूपः
Jnanam yuchyate budhaihi.
ज्ञानं युज्यते बुधैः
Okay. So we saw that Shankara said that the idea that I am the body is ajnanam, it is ignorance. And all the transactions that we do in our lives, which in all the karma that you do, all the action that you do, activity that you do, they all arise out of that fundamental ajnanam, the fundamental misconception that I am the body. We should remember that it is the sthula shariram, the gross body, which alone can enter into a relationship. And therefore, all your transactions are based on the relationship of body to body. And when you say, I am doing this, that is based on this fundamental ajnanam that I am the body, right? All transactions arise out of ajnanam. That is why you will find that in many texts, karma is referred to as avidya, since karma is born out of avidya. And what is avidya? I am the body. I am the body is the confusion, right? So the idea being conveyed is that every action is based on ajnanam. What is then jnanam? So he says here, Naham deho yasadrupaha jnanam it yuchyate budaihi. Aham na dehaha. Na aham dehaha. I am not the body. What is the body then? The body is an instrument of transactions. Like my cataract lens, implanted lens. It's a instrument of perception, but I rarely ever take it as separate from me. Right. So the object, the vision of something being a Vishaya, being the object, is forgotten, is missed when that object is the instrument of your transactions. Which is why, because we transact with our body, it is very easy to miss the idea the body is a Vishaya, body is an object. Why? Because the body is an instrument of your transactions. In the same way, because your mind is used to perceive and understand the world, you miss the idea that the mind is also an object, because the mind is an instrument of perception, instrument of understanding, and therefore Sukshma Shariram is taken as myself. You miss the truth that it is a body, it's a upadhi, right? So Sthula Shariram and Sukshma Shariram both are used as a means of experience, a means of transaction, and therefore we take them as ourselves. So to prove that the external world is a Vishaya, is an object, is not very difficult. As I said, when you see a cow, it's very difficult to say that, yes, I am the cow. But it is very easy to take the gross body or subtle body as myself. Okay. Let us recollect Sushupti Avastha. In Sushupti Avastha, the Sthula Shariram is not there. Sukshma Shariram is practically inoperative. And therefore, you don't make use of either of these. When both the bodies are not there, when Sthula body and Sukshma body are not there, there is no external world, because the object of experiencing the external world, the Sthula Shariram, is not there. There is no dream or internal world, because the object of experiencing the internal world, Sukshma Shariram, is not there. So after removal of both these bodies, when the physical body and the mind are not functional, what is left behind? Only the consciousness principle is left behind. Therefore, in Sushupti Avastha, the perceived external world is not there, because the perceiver is dormant. The internal world is not there, because the dreamer is dormant. That is why when you get up out of dreamless sleep, Sushupti Avastha, you say, I slept like a log of wood. I don't remember anything at all. I did not experience anything at all. Therefore, he says here, Aham na deha. I am not the body. What is the body then? So, Hisad Rupaha. Right? That has to be broken up into Hi Asat Rupaha. Shariram Hi Asat Rupaha. The body is Asat Rupaha. Here, Asat means Mithya. Mithya Asat. Right? It cannot mean Tuchha Asat because it is experienced. And therefore, body here is Mithya Asat. It is impermanent. So, even when this Mithya Asat body is dormant, it doesn't do any transaction with the world. I, the consciousness principle, I still exist. When I am in Sushupti Avastha, I do not enter into any transactions. But the end of transactions cannot be taken to mean the end of existence. So I may not be a transacting entity, but as an existing entity, I do not ever end. I continue to be an existing entity, whether it is Sushupti Avastha, whether it is Jagrata Avastha, whether it is Swapna Avastha. End of transactions cannot be taken as the end of existence. This is a very common mistake. And this is what Vedanta tells us. You are an existing entity. At some times, you will be a transacting entity. At other times, you will be a non-transacting entity. What is the reason why at times you transact, at times you don't transact? Because at times the instrument of transaction is available. At other times, the instrument of transaction has been put away. It's no longer available. And therefore, transactions can come and go, but existence is permanent. You are not a transacting entity. You transact at times, but you are that permanent existence consciousness principle, right? And this is what needs to be understood, because when you know that you are the permanent entity, you know that there is no mortality for you. You know that there is no death for you. And that is why instinctively all of us reject mortality, right? So Yoga Shastra calls it abhiniveshaha, this instinctive clinging to life. And many people say that is why people want children, because in that child of yours, you think that you live on. Or some people write books and they'll say, I will always be alive through my books. Or some people write poems and say, I will always be alive through my poems. Everybody wants to be always alive. But they forget the basic Vedantic truth. You don't have to want to be alive. You are always alive. So Brahmaivaham, Aham Brahmaiva. I am Brahman. Brahman without any limitations. So any limitation is what? Any limitation expresses in what manner? In the form of a dependence. And this dependence alone is the cause of sorrow. But since you have no limitations, you have no dependence. And since you have no dependence, there is no sorrow at all. That is why Krishna told Arjuna, hey Arjuna, what is the famous word? What is that famous line? Second chapter. You are grieving, yes, you are grieving for that for which there is no reason to grieve. Right? There is no reason to grieve because you are without limitation. When you are without limitation, there is no dependence at all. When there is no dependence at all, where is the cause for sorrow? And therefore, Krishna was telling Arjuna, Arjuna, your grief itself is based upon the mistaken assumption that you are a mortal. So Brahmaivaham. And then the next word is samaha. Samaha means uniform. So uniform means I, the consciousness principle, am uniform. I, the OC, am one and uniform. But because of multiple reflecting media, the RCs are multiple. However, the very substratum of all the RCs is I, the uniform OC, samaha. And shantaha. Shantaha means I am undisturbed. The body can go through disturbance. The mind can go through disturbance. Suffering comes only when you have a feeling that I need something more or that I am dependent on something. When you feel that I am small and I am small, therefore I need somebody, right? This smallness, this feeling of finitude, this feeling of isolation, this isolation is what leads to samsara. And this isolation comes only when you view yourself as separate from Brahman or separate from Atman. If you have understood that you are Atman, you know you are all pervading. You know you are full. You know nobody can reject you. You cannot reject anybody because only you are there. How can the all pervading Atma reject something? No. Another name for this non-rejection is what we call universal love. And therefore he says Satchit Ananda Lakshanam. This Satchit Anandam is the definition of that Brahman. Atman is permanent. And we saw that it survives the destruction of the reflecting medium. Nothing happens to it when the body falls. So the Atman is the consciousness principle. It is Chit. It is the existence principle. It is Sat. And it is free of any limitation. It is Ananta, infinite. Because it is infinite, it is free of limitations. Because it is free of limitations, it has no dependencies. Because it has no dependencies, it has no regrets, no sorrows. Therefore, that very Ananta translates into Ananda. And that is why Atman or Brahman is Sat Chit Ananda in its very basic nature. And then he says, Jnanam iti uchyate buddhaihi. This discovery that I am that limitless Atma, free of all limitations, I am the very existence principle, the very consciousness principle, and the very basis of all Ananda in this world. That I am. Jnanam iti uchyate buddhaihi. The wise people call this Jnanam. This is known as Atma Jnanam. Okay, any questions before we go to the next verse? All very nice verses, good for Nididhyasanam. Of course, it presumes that you have done a fair amount of Vedanta in the past. Okay, let us look at verse number 25. Please unmute yourself. Nirvikaro nirakaro
Nirvikaro nirakaro
niravadyoham avyayaha
niravadyohamavyayah
naham deho hi sadrupaha
naham deho sadrupaha
jnanam yuchyate budhaihi
jnanamityate budhaihi.
So you can see that the second line is the same as the second line of the previous sloka. It's a repetition. It is to drive home the idea. What is that idea? Naham dehaha. I am not the body. What is the body? Asatrupaha. This body is mithya only. And jnanam it yuchyate bodhaihi. This discovery, this knowledge that I am not the body and the body is mithya. I am the consciousness principle. It is known as jnanam. That is the second line. But then what am I? I am the consciousness principle. The first line gives the adjectives. Nirvikaraha. Nirvikaraha means I am free from the Shadvikara, from the sixfold changes. What are the Shadvikaras?
Asti, Chayate, Vardhate, Kshiyate, Viparinimate,
Vipakshite and Vinashyate.
All six I am free from. Why am I free from? Because they are all the characteristics of the Deha, and I am not the Deha. What is the Deha? Deha is Asatrupaha, Mithyarupaha, while I am Satyam. So Nirvikaraha. I am the Chaitanyam principle, the consciousness principle. I am free of all the six modifications. Then you must remember here that the six modifications include birth, decay, and death. Right? So I am free from all changes, including I am free from birth, I am free from death, I am free from any change. That is mentioned by Nirvikaraha. Then Nirakaraha. Akara means a form. Nirakara means formless. Formless means what? All pervading. Therefore, I am that all pervading consciousness principle, free from all the six modifications. Then Niravadyaha. So avadyaha means a defect, a doshaha. So niravadyaha means nirdoshaha. And all the three bodies have got doshaha, avadyaha, have got intrinsic defects. What are they? The sthula shariram is polluted usually with a lot of physical impurities. How do you know? You have to daily you have to have a bath to clean your body. Sukshma shariram is also polluted with lots of avadyaha, lots of defects. What are they? What are the
Negative.
Thoughts, negative thoughts.
Yeah, kama,
impure
krodha,
thoughts.
matsarya,
Yeah.
and ajnanam. Not to forget ajnanam. Ajnanam is also limitation of knowledge, is also defect. So sthula shariram is polluted, is impure, has got defects. Sukshma shariram is polluted, is impure, has got defect. What about karana shariram? What is the defect in karana shariram? Karana shariram is a very, based on avidya itself and tamogana, because sushupti avastha. Therefore, karana shariram is embodiment of avidya and tamogana. These are the three defects in the three bodies. But I, the Chaitanyam principle, I, the consciousness principle, I am nirdoshaha, niravadyaha. And therefore, aham avyayaha. I am changeless. Avyaya basically is a repetition over here. A repetition of which word?
Nirvikara.
Nirvikaraha. So it's simply saying that again, just to drive home the point, I am changeless, right? But the problem is it easy to understand this? No, because the moment I have been born, from that very time, people who you're dependent upon, they have been telling you that you are useless, you can't do this, even this, you are useless, that I don't like you, I hate you. All these things have been, these recordings are there in your mind because they have been there from the day you were born. And if your parents didn't tell you, then your teachers told you. If your teachers didn't tell you, your friends told you, your companions told you. Whole time, people tell you how useless you are. How to how to reject or how to eliminate all these constant recordings from your mind? You have to. There's only one way. As long as you accept as yourself as the body or the mind, it's an almost impossible task to get rid of these preconditioned images. What you should do is you have to reject the very limitation. You reject the idea that I'm limited, and therefore there should be constant nididhyasanam on the idea that I am that limitless Chidananda Swarupa Ananda Atman. The only way to get rid of the earlier recordings is to record over it. And therefore, constant nididhyasanam will eliminate the negative ideas which are embedded in your mind. The fact that you are Chidananda Swarupam, you should know. This is called Jnanam. Constantly repeating that is called Nididhyasanam. So as a waker, you should know that the dangers in my dream, they don't affect me. And therefore, again he says, Naham dehaha hi asatrupaha jnanam ityuchate bodaihi. Now we look at the 26th verse. So please unmute yourself. Niramayo nirabhasaha
निरामयो
निरामयो
निराभासः
nirvikalpohamataha
निर्विकल्पोऽहमाततः
naham deho hi sadrupaha
नाहं
देहो
देहो
तद्रूपः
jnanam ityuchate budhaihi.
ज्ञानम् इत्युच्यते बुधैः
So again, the second line is a repetition. We won't go on that. Basically, again, I am not the body. I am not the mithya body. And what am I? I am the consciousness principle. And some more adjectives. Niramayaha. I am free from disease. Why? Because the body is subject to disease. The mind is subject to disease. But I have no change at all. Since I am nirvikaraha, no changes are possible. Disease is a change in the natural state. The very word says dis-ease, not at ease, right? So I am always at ease. I am always relaxed. Niramayaha. I am free from disease. I am not the perishable body. But the question can come up. You know, Ramana Maharshi suffered from disease. He had so many problems in his life. How can you say Jnani is free from disease? What is the answer?
He had prarabdha karma he was experiencing.
The
body
jnani
is
identify with the body.
it was
It
the
was the
body
body which was experiencing all the trouble.
When you say Jnani, the I of that refers to the consciousness principle, not the body of the Jnani. Remember, the body of the Jnani is subject to prarabdha, is subject to decay, is subject to disease. Forget about the body of the Jnani. What about you? When by now you all know what we are, what you actually are. So when you say I am suffering from disease, you are being pakka ajnani because you are referring to your body as yourself. What you can say is my body is not well. When you can at least yourself you can tell that. If you go around telling the whole world it is my body which is not well, it might cause a little bit of laughter. Okay. So disease is intrinsic to the body. Every body will sooner or later fall sick. So whether you are jnani or ajnani, bodies are subject to disease. In fact, the very arrival and departure of the body is because of prarabdha only. Every experience that you get, the body gets, is because of prarabdha only. Therefore, a jnani may not acquire fresh punya papam after jnanam. But he has got acquired punya papam, right? In the form of prarabdha. How do we know that jnani has got prarabdha?
The fact that he's still alive in his body is the
Very good. The fact that he's alive and he's talking to you means he's got prarabdha, right? Now remember, the jnani's body may or may not be healthier than ajnani. But sometimes we say that jnani's body is generally healthier because that mind of his is not subject to, the tensions of incorrect thinking, unhealthy attitudes. But prarabdha caused diseases will be very much affecting the jnani. So that is the next one, nirabhasaha. Abhasa means to illumine. Nirabhasaha means which cannot be illumined. In our language, which cannot be objectified. For example, every time you acquire knowledge about something, let us say I acquire knowledge about a glass, you are illumining that glass with your intellect. But this you cannot do in the case of of yourself as I, the Atman. And therefore the Atman I is not knowledgeable, is not knowable, it is not objectifiable, because it is a very subject. The subject cannot become the object. Okay? The very fundamental idea of Vedanta. Okay, the consciousness principle, you being the subject, can know everything excepting yourself, the consciousness principle. And Atman cannot be known, therefore we also say Atman need not be known, because Atman is always self-evident. It's like having a torchlight in a dark room, right? You need the torchlight to perceive any other object in the room, but you don't need any other light to see the torchlight, because the torchlight is self-illumining. Similarly, the Atman is self-evident, self-illumining. It is without division, because all divisions belong to the body, right? Therefore, Atman need not be known. Atman cannot be known, because it is, but it is known because it is self-effulgent. You need not know it using the light of something else. When you say Atman cannot be known, it means there is no other source of knowledge of the Atman, but the very fact that it is self-evident as I am. When you say Atman is self-evident, what does it mean? It means everybody knows himself as I am, I exist. That is the self-illuminating power of Atman. Nobody needs to ask somebody else, am I alive? You know the moment your eyes open that you are alive. Whether you're alive and kicking, that is another story, but you are alive. Then nirvikalpaha. Nirvikalpa is free of vikalpas, free of divisions. Vikalpa is a division. And how do we explain that? If you look at space, space is free of divisions. If you look at light, prakasha, prakasha illuminates all the divisions in the world, but itself, the light is not divided. Similarly, Atman, the consciousness principle, because of the Atman, everything is visible. All divisions of this world are visible. But the consciousness principle is nirvikalpaha, not divided. Then aham atataha. Atataha is another word for sarvagataha, all pervading. Vyaptaha. Sarvam vyaptam. That is atataha. So aham atataha. I am all pervading. I am there everywhere. And the word aham is important. Shankara is pointing out that when we talk about the Atma, you shouldn't say that Atma nirvikalpaha, Atma sarvagataha. You should say aham nirvikalpaha, aham sarvagataha. When you train your mind to use the word I, when you're talking about the Atman, all the various, adjectives describing the Atman should be added to the word I. I am so and so. I am nirvikalpaha. I am nirakaraha. When you can say all that very confidently, at least to yourself, then that is jnana. We'll do one more verse and stop for the day. Look at verse number 27. We will chant. Nirguno nishkriyo nityaha.
Nirguno nishkriyo nityaha.
Nityamuktoham chutaha.
Nityamuktohamachyutaha.
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 Naham deho hi sadrupaha.
Sadrupaha.
Jnanam ityuchyate budhaihi.
Jnanam ipyate bodhai.
So again, the second line is repetition. Naham dehaha hi asadrupaha. I am not the mithya body. Then who am I? I am the consciousness principle. I am the consciousness principle. I am the Chaitanyam itself. And some more adjectives are given. Nirgunaha. I am free from all attributes. Guna is property or attributes. And from this nirgunaha, you have two fundamental laws of Vedanta which we have talked about. That anything which I experience, I am different from that. So I am different from any object of my experience is law number one. And law number two, anybody remembers? Two fundamental laws. The first one is I am different from any experienced object which I experience. And law number two is
The mithya concept, anything with gunas would be
law number
dependent,
two is
obviously.
any attribute which I experience when I experience an object, that attributes belongs to the object and not to me, the subject. So two fundamental laws you should always remember. I am different from any experienced object. Any attribute which I experience along with the object belongs to the object and not to me. All experienced attributes belong to experienced object and never belongs to the experiencer subject. Right? All the experienced properties of the body, therefore, all the experienced properties of the body, the tallness, the healthiness, the illness, all that belongs to who? To the body itself. Similarly, the jealousy, the greed, the happiness, the sorrow which you experience belongs where? Belongs to the mind. You, the experiencer, are free from all these properties. Any property you talk about, it cannot belong to you. Any attribute you talk about, it cannot belong to you. Any guna you talk about, it cannot belong to you. You don't have any experiences at all. They all belong either to the body or to the mind. They never belong to you. That is why nirgunaha. Right? Okay. So I am this attributeless, guna-less, nirguna consciousness. And guna can mean, good attributes, virtues. Guna can mean evil attributes also, bad attributes also. Therefore, you, the Atma, are free from the good and the bad. You are neither good nor are you bad. Right? So don't ever say, I am good. You are not good. And similarly, you are not bad. You are dharma, adharma, atitaha. Beyond dharma, adharma, you are punya, papa, atitaha. Beyond punyam and papam, you are the nirguna atma. And the next adjective is nishkriyaha, free from actions. Kriya is actions. The word nish, the prefix nish, conveys the meaning of no action, of freedom from action. So nishkriyaha, free from actions. Why? Because action has got to have some sort of movement, some sort of change. But you are nirvikaraha. And therefore you have to be nishkriya. Unless vikara is, is a part of you, you cannot be having kriya. So unless you can change, you cannot act. Even for thinking, if you're sitting quiet in class and listening to me, you might say, I'm being nishkriya. You're not. What are the thoughts? There are thought movements. Vritti vikaraha. As you are sitting and listening to me in class, your mind is highly active. Each word of mind is pervading each word of mine is pervading your mind. You are understanding that word. There is a very strong movement of thoughts in trying to understand what I am saying. But Atma cannot have any movement, either gross or subtle, for one very good reason. Atma cannot move at all. What is a good reason for that?
Sarvagata.
It is sarvagatam, like space. What is there everywhere can never move. And therefore, Atma is sarvagatam. Atma has no movement at all. It is nishkriya. On the other hand, the entire universe moves in me, the non-moving consciousness principle. So in the dream, for example, I seem to move, but the entire dream is in the waker's mind. And from the waker's angle, there is no movement. Although in the dream, there is a lot of movement. So that is the idea that is being conveyed over here. The next word is nityaha, eternal. Therefore, I am eternal, without birth and without death. What am I? I am kala atitaha. Time itself is born and disappears in me. How can I be affected by time at all? Only time creates, only time destroys. The world is located in time and space, but time and space itself is located in me. And therefore, I am always free of the need of change, free of the need of support. I am nitya muktaha. Next word. I am free from mortality. Time-wise limitation is mortality. Space-wise limitation is finitude, right? If you look at how space and time are the cause of limitations, this is it. A limitation in time means birth and death. Therefore, it is called mortality. A space-wise limitation means you are in one place only. You got boundaries. Therefore, it is called finitude. And when you say nitya muktaha, you are eternally free. You are saying you are free from time-wise and space-wise limitation. In other words, you are saying, I am immortal. I am infinite. So the idea conveyed is what? Either you are always free, you have always been free, or you will never be free. You cannot say that moksha will come to me in time. Because whatever comes in time is within time. Whatever is within time is within me. It has got to have an end also. Therefore, it is not moksha. And therefore, he says, aham achyutaha. Achyutaha means the one who will not fall. Aham achyutaha. I will not fall into bondage again. And jnanam ityuchyate budaihi. The one who knows all this, wise people call him a jnani. With this, we'll stop for today. Any questions? All very beautiful Nididhyasanam verses. It will make most sense when you have a fair amount of background of Vedanta. I'm not saying you have to have done all the Upanishads and all that, but some amount of Vedanta should be there in your mind. Basic structure, if you know, all these verses will make a lot of sense.
Hariom, Om Acharya ji.
Om Kush.
Acharya ji, when we say that I am all pervading, or Brahman is all pervading, I was listening to one of the podcasts where it says it's not like milk and sugar. Like it's not the same example as milk and sugar, because then there is two things. It's said that the Brahman appears as all pervading. The world appears as Brahman. Could you explain me this once?
When you look at a necklace, what do you see?
Gold.
But you're looking at a
The
necklace.
name and form.
So the world appears as a necklace. The gold appears as a necklace, but really speaking, it is gold only. And therefore, when you say Brahman appears as the world, you are saying, really speaking, there is only Brahman, the rest name and form. So essentially, the difference is that creation involves Maya. Okay, so whenever you say Brahman appears the world or Brahman create, whatever you say, remember that Maya is involved. The appearance of Maya you are calling appearance as the world because Maya is not different from Brahman. Maya is part of Brahman. That is why you say Brahman appears as the world. But Nirguna Brahman, the consciousness aspect, cannot appear or disappear for that matter. It's Maya which changes. Whenever you talk about world, remember there is a mithya concept also involved because Maya is there.
Acharya ji, one understanding I just want to clarify. Everybody, I mean, every human being that way is actually Nitya Mukta. It's only that those who are not having the Jnanam, they don't have that understanding. Otherwise, ideally, everybody is Nitya Mukta. Is it right?
You cannot use the word every human being is Nitya Mukta.
Yes, I understand that.
If you understand that you are Brahman,
Yeah.
I mean, the understanding is that there is only Brahman.
No, I meant whether somebody is taking the Jnanam or not taking the Jnanam.
He is
it's
still Nitya Mukta.
Mukta.
Yeah. But it's like, if you don't know that you are Nitya Mukta, then you're identified with the body. And therefore, all the ills of the body, you will take it upon yourself.
Yes, thank you.
Om Raviji, I just wanted to reconfirm the 2 points that you mentioned about the attributes of the experiencer.
Yeah.
One, that the experiencer is different from the object which is being experienced.
That's correct.
And being that the attributes that are experienced are belonging to the object and not to the experiencer. These are the two, right?
That's very two fundamental laws which you always remember.
Right.
Okay. So with this, we'll stop. Thank you for your patience. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Om Tat Sat Om Namah Shivaya. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Acharya ji.